Hi guys, thanks for coming to this channel and hope you and your entire family are safe and doing well. If you are new to this channel, would request you to please go ahead and subscribe this channel and forward this channel to someone who wants to learn the Active Directory or wants to become an expert in Active Directory. Thank you once again, and let me start the session now. So this is the fourth session of the Active Directory series. So in the last session, in the third session, I explained about how to promote the domain controller in the existing domain controller in the existing forest, and I showed you the troubleshooting as steps as well. Suppose if while promoting the any domain controller, if you face any issue, so what domain, what logs to be referred at that point in time, and how you could pick the appropriate error and go to Google and check the particular error meaning and look for the resolution. So in this demo, in this video session, I would be covering the demotion of the domain controller, and now I would be also showing you some important logs when we face the issue while joining the machine to the domain controller. So I'm going to cover two things. Like the first is how to demote the domain controller, and the second is how to identify or check the debug label logs when you or there is any issue while joining the domain controller. So bear with me. Let me start. Let me put the password over here. And there is one important part comes under the demotion. So you know, let me open the drawing so that you can have a better understanding what I'm saying. So let me open the MS Paint real quick. All right. So what we are currently doing is like we have two domain controllers. Okay. The one is server 2012 R2, and the second domain controller which I have right now is server 2008 R2. Okay. So suppose what we are currently trying to do is like yesterday we in the previous session we promoted this server 2008 R2 domain controller, but now we are going to demote this domain controller. So when we demote the domain controller, there are two ways of doing it. Okay, the first way is like you go ahead and demote the server gracefully, and the second option is uh, you know the forcefully demotion of domain controller. When I'm saying forcefully and gracefully, I will tell you like what these two are. So the first one is the gracefully. So in graceful, what happened is like your this domain controller and this domain controller is reaching to each other. I mean, they both are in the network. There is no issue at all. So you go ahead, and if you're using server 2008 R2, you just go ahead and run the DC promo to remove this Active Directory from the domain controller. And once you run the DC promo, it will remove the gracefully of the entire entry of this domain controller in server 2008 database. I mean, what I'm trying to tell you here is like once we gracefully uninstall the domain controller, so that domain controller, there is no need of doing any metadata cleanup. So metadata cleanup is new word for you guys over here. So if I say metadata cleanup, so what is metadata cleanup? So let me bring you to the example. So the example would be like the same. I'll pick these two domain controllers. The first one is the server 2008. same as our environment, and the another domain controller is server 2002 12 R2. So suppose your server 2008, due to some hardware issue, this domain controller went down, and there is a surety, or the hardware team declare that they won't be able to bring this server up. So it's a kind of server has been destroyed or it's gone. So being administrator, what you can do, because still, if you go to the server 2008 R2 in the domain controller OU, so if I'll go and show you here, there is a domain controller OU, right? So I'm so sorry, it's a bit slow, but uh, okay. So if I'll go and click here, and then I'll type dsa.msc. Sorry, there is a typo. So let me again bring that screen here. If I go and type the dsa.msc over here, so it will shortly open the Active Directory users and computer snap-in. So in the snap-in, right? In the snap-in, there is one by default OU created when you promote any domain controller, that is domain controller OU. So whatever the domain controller you promote in the environment, those will be added over here automatically. I mean, you have nothing to do. You have to just update. You have to just promote the domain controller, and that will be by default added to this place or this location or this OU. So you can see here that I got the first one, which is this machine itself, and the second one is the another machine, the server 2008 R2, which we have promoted in the last series of the video. So you can see like these both machines are GC global catalog. I explained about the global catalog, but later in the separate video I would be covering this global catalog partitions explanation as well. So you can see here, all right. So this is what I was talking about. So suppose if if I'll move to this, so suppose your domain controller, which is WinADC01, is completely down, and there is no chance that server will comes up ever. So what you will do in that case, because you have still entry available here in the domain controllers, and that domain controller also must have the replication replication relationship with this domain controller. So if that server will not be contactable, right? So what will be happen in that case? You would be getting lot of error in the replication report, correct? So what we will do in that case? So there is an options we called metadata cleanup. So that metadata cleanup I will cover after this session, not in this session, but in the tomorrow session I will definitely cover the metadata cleanup GUI through GUI and from the command line as well. So let's move to the server 2008 and let's try to demote this server. So let me type the password. So let's log in. Let's click on the switch user. Go to this and then type administrator and then type the password. Okay. So hope you guys don't miss any videos, okay? Otherwise you won't be able to get what I'm trying to explain, because I'm explaining everything in sequence. Like from first video I started in giving the induction of Active Directory, then I covered the component of the Active Directory. In the last session I tried covering the DC promotion, and this particular session or recording session I'm covering the DC demotion. So make sure you watch all of the video, and let's wait this screen to come up, and then probably will open the run and we will execute the command, which is the DC promo. Okay, so if I go in onto the start button, and sorry guys, that's a bit hung. All right, so remember you have to just run the same command DC promo which we did earlier. Okay, DC promo, the same command. Okay, uh, DC promo, and then you hit the enter button. You hit the enter button. So as soon as you hit the enter button, this screen will comes up, and so currently, as I explained, we are trying to uh, gracefully uninstall the domain controller. So after this demotion, I'll show you like how the entries are being deleted from the other domain controller. But in the forceful forceful demotion, the process would be different. So I would be covering the metadata cleanup in the next second session. Let's wait for this installations to pop up the screen for the next step. Bear with me, guys. So now you can see once I run the DC promo, the installation process and the removal of Active Directory process would be same. When I'm saying would be same, that means we in both the way, right? In both like for the new Active Directory configuration installation and for the demotion, we use the same command, which is DC promo. But what if you run the DC promo while uninstalling the Active Directory and you are getting an error? So in that case, for Server 2008, we have, I mean, in the Server 2012 as well, we have an options in which we can forcefully remove the domain controllers, like go to run, type DC promo, and then space slash force, type force, and then hit OK. So it will forcefully remove the domain controller. So what we since we are here uninstalling the domain controller, so let's click on the welcome wizard. Here the option is to delete the domain controller. Okay, read out all the informations over here, and then click on next, and then click on yes, and then again delete if there is any delegation DNS delegation in place. And here you have to type the account name. Remember, while installing the Active Directory, we must have the account which has access to the enterprise admin. So here I'm going to type the administrator account which is having the enterprise admin access. I clicked on OK, and then here would be your DSRM account password. So I have the DSRM account password same as the administrator account password. So if you wanted to export the entire settings, like what all you are removing, so you can export that settings wherever you want on desktop or some other drive, or else click on next, click on reboot option. So due to some problem, right, the screen again. So let me run the same command. So here click next. Okay, because the machine is in VM, right? It it has sometime it makes some network issues. So here we didn't mention the domain name. So here we have to mention Contoso, and then administrator, and then here we have to type the password. Then next, here we have to type the password as same as your administrator account password. Next, and then we click on this, the operation failed because this Active Directory domain is not the last AD in the domain. Okay, so I think we are making somewhere very silly mistake. So let's run the same command once again. Or if we continue face this error, then we will be running the force command. Okay. So this Active Directory global catalog server used to process the logon. Okay. So delete because the server is last domain controller in the environment. So what we were doing, the mistake is, it's a kind of learning for you guys. This domain controller is the not a last domain controller in the environment, right? But even though we were just checking this out, so we suppose not to check this option because this domain controller is an additional domain controller. Click on next, and this option should be checked by default. So leave this as it is and then click on next. And here we have to type the contoso slash administrator account, and then of course the password. And then here we have to type the password again. Have to type the password again and then click on next, and here choose the option to reboot. Okay. And this is all. Okay, so this is all about the uninstallations or demotions of Active Directory. So in the further session, I would be covering the metadata cleanup, like how to do the metadata cleanup in case of your server or there is any hardware failure of the domain controller, and that domain controller will never come up. Okay. So in those scenario, what type of approach we take and how to demote the server or clean the metadata cleanup for that particular object in the environment. As you know, right, if the domain controller is shut down or went down for some hardware reason, and uh, like due to hardware issue, and we are unable to come or bring that server up, so in those scenario, uh, whatever the servers, the domain controllers you have is still working, they still will, I mean, realize or think like that domain controller is still in the environment, and still in the environment, and that replications error would be continuously indicating or generating in the REPL sum or rep admin. So that replication part, like USN, lingering object, high watermark, what are the up to dateness vectors. So I would be covering in this separate session. For this sessions, uh, we plan to uninstall or demote the domain controller, which has been done. So I would be covering the another. I would be recording the another session tomorrow for the metadata cleanup and the domain join issue, guys. I'm running out of time, otherwise I could have uh, showed you the domain join issue and what log to be referred if there is any problem with the domain join. So let's verify this first, and then we probably record the next session for this uh, for the domain join, debug label troubleshooting, and uh, the metadata cleanup. So just a second, let me open the main domain controller just to see whether that domain name is removed from here as well or not. So let me type in the password. Okay, so let me click this up. Okay, so here let's type the dsa.msc. So look here, guys. Now we have only one domain controller name, which is the name of this domain controller, the parent domain controller itself. The another domain controller which we promoted for the server 2008 that has been erased or vanished from this domain controller OU because we gracefully removed that domain controller successfully. Okay, so and that is why that domain controllers went away. But that metadata cleanup is very important and it's crucial. So in the second session, and that is why I decided to record this separate session for the data metadata cleanup and the domain join issue. So thanks for watching this video and hope this video is informative for you. If this video is informative for you, I would request you to please subscribe this channel, like, put the comment, whatever the query you have, or mail me directly so that as and when I get time, I review the comment and answer you uh, for the appropriate questions you ask. Thank you very much, guys, and have a great day ahead. Cheers. Thank you.